United States has a habit of burying the past, covering up mistakes instead of actually learning from them, which is why history keeps on repeating. Now, in part one, I asked why my current situation happened in North Carolina, what Abe, the letter K, and this homie have to do with it. Well, the answer? Section 1983. The rule that I filed my case under was actually created in 1871 because of what went down right here in North Carolina. In 1860, right after Abraham Lincoln was elected, 11 southern states announced they were leaving the U.S. to form their own little country so they could keep control the way they wanted it to over certain groups of people. Lincoln basically was like, you don't get to throw a tantrum and break the country apart. That goes against everything this country was built on. And so the little civil dispute began. By 1865, the Union won and the 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendments were passed, and states were supposed to guarantee equal protection, due process, and voting rights. And all of our problems were solved. Just kidding. People don't magically change just because the government tells them to. Instead, they doubled down and formed this little group that wore white hoodies, carrying out very bad acts across the South with no one holding them accountable. And North Carolina became the poster child for it. It stood out because of the political split inside the state, just like it is today. However, remember, Republicans and Democrats were flipped back then. In North Carolina, Governor William Holden was a Republican, and he aligned with the new federal rules that had passed and wanting to guarantee freedom for all. But the legislations and the courts were dominated by Democrats. They resisted this reconstruction, undermined Holden's authority, and shielded the K team members. In 1870, Governor Holden was forced to declare martial law after the K murders of Wyatt Outlaw, a black town commissioner, and Republican State Senator John Stevens. Holden sent the militia to round up the members of the K, but the courts refused to convict them. Instead, the assembly gathered and impeached Holden, making him the first U.S. governor ever removed in that way. But this showed Congress that states weren't capable of protecting basic rights, citing North Carolina as proof. In April 1871, Congress passed what became known as the Ku Klux Klan Act, with Section 1983 as a civil remedy when states failed, allowing individuals to hold state officials personally accountable when their rights were ignored. Right after it was passed, federal courts in North Carolina briefly acted on their own, and there were real convictions. But then came the Jim Crow era, and North Carolina became a model for how to enforce voter suppression, and separate but equal concept without as much brutality, which made it harder to challenge. Federal courts rarely interfered with segregation, voting restrictions, or racial targeting. That's what eventually led to the Greensboro sit-in of 1960, sparking the national wave of student-led desegregation protests. So it just goes to show that North Carolina has always been a flashpoint where federal law, state resistance, and citizens' rights collide. And here I am 150 years later. The names, the faces, and the parties may have changed, but I am still forced to fight under that very rule that was created because this state ignored the Constitution, my rights, and still is.